Hello everyone, this is Mr. O here. Unfortunately, this particular lecture or this particular series was not recorded properly. In fact, I only had 9 seconds of it. So I'm going to redo this and I'm going to upload it on YouTube later for you to be able to access. But more or less, it's the same thing of what we have discussed this morning. Okay, so we know that in part of the ecosystem, ecology is actually the study of living organisms and the interaction with the environment. As you can see from the background picture here, you have a habitat of an ocean with all the fishes and the coral reefs. There has to be an interaction between the two factors, the biotic and also the abiotic, which we will come in part 4 later on of this series of the course. All right. The 7 basic living organism characteristics can be represented by Mrs. Grant. All right, MRSGREN. All right, so you have movement, you have respiration, you have stimuli, you have growth, and you have reproduction, you have energy, and you have, of course, nutrition. Now, the most important thing here is that one of these characteristics is dependent on the other, right? None of these characteristics work independently. So most importantly here is there has to be a series of connectivity, because without the movement, you will not be able to find, a partner to reproduce. And that is in the case of animals. You wouldn't have, respiration if there is no energy being produced. And without nutrition, you will not be able to have any growth. So there has to be a relationship between the 7 characteristics. All right. Looking at the movement here, we have a leopard, or sorry, not a leopard, a cheetah. We have the lynx also hunting, a rabbit in the snow. All right. We need to move. Animals need to move is because of 3 things: shelter, partners, and also food. And as you can see, larger organisms such as the cheetah and also the lynx are able to move to catch their prey, whereas the rabbit here, which is the small organism, they need to run away from predators to ensure their survival. All right. And this is in accordance to responding to into a stimuli so that they can escape from danger. In terms of respiration, we know that it is a chemical process to break down large to small molecules, and it is the help of the mitochondria, or the mitochondrion being a singular noun as displayed in the background. All right, you need the respiration for cellular activities. There is no doubt about that. You also need it for metabolic processes. Okay, most important is that we need to see a correlation between the respiration with the other characteristics. Okay, but we're just going to focus on respiration at this stage. You have aerobic respiration. All right, the word equation is glucose reacting with oxygen to produce carbon dioxide, water, energy as byproducts. Okay, so you have the glucose here reacting with the oxygen, and as a result, you gain water, carbon dioxide, and of course, loads of energy being released. All right, and you can see the big pointy sharp star with energy as the focus. All right, let me go back just one slide. Sorry about that. You need the energy to drive the cellular mechanisms. All right, you have to think back to your first term topics on biotechnology. Okay, now in the case whereby anaerobic respiration is concerned, all right, you do not have any oxygen. All right, you do not have any oxygen, yet at the same time, you still want the whole process to go on. So rather than wasting the energy, you will actually undergo anaerobic respiration, right? That is the condition where the cells are not being utilized under a certain condition, or we can say that they are stressed. All right, you're stressing the cell that they are not allowed to take up the oxygen. So with the glucose, you're breaking it down into lactic acid and also energy. And as you compare the energy here as compared to the energy in aerobic respiration, the shape or the size is rather small as compared to the one before, right? And that is because you want to avoid wastage. You want to avoid energy, being lost. You want it to make it more productive, okay? And that is for animals. Now, in plants, it is also the same thing with glucose, but instead of the lactic acid being produced, you have the ethanol, carbon dioxide, and of course, energy. Now, bear in mind here that the energy produced is not as great as that of the aerobic respiration. Okay, the next slide is about stimuli. All right. Stimuli is important because animals, plants, they need to respond to external environment, and it avoids them, from suffering from, predators or even danger, and it also allows animals to move to find shelter. So as you can see, I managed to link movement and stimuli together. There has to be an interconnection of how these things are going. Okay, so for us, all right, as human beings or even animals, there are two factors where we actually respond to the biotic factors and also the abiotic factors. You will learn this more in part 4, but this is more like a basic. Okay, now in terms of growth, you definitely need growth because organisms need to expand, not only just in terms of the size, but the organic biomass content that is contained within the organism. All right. You need nutrients and energy to reproduce and also to ensure survival. All right. And one thing about the growth is that it is a form of, in the form of mitosis. All right. The process of mitosis produces cells which are identical to each other. All right. On the right hand side of the screen here, you will find a mitosis process that you have learned in term 1. All right, this is just only a basic simple animation that goes through all the stages: prophase, metaphase, anaphase, and telophase. And lastly, it's cytokinesis. Okay, whereas on the left hand side, you will see an exponential and a logistic growth. Exponential and logistic growth, the only thing I want you to know here is within a certain period of time, how much number of the individuals have actually grown in terms of its population. That is what we need to see in this case. Okay, and in reproduction, we also see not only cells reproducing, but there has to be an interlink. You need to gain the nutrition appropriate ones so that the cell can reproduce. All right, this is very important because parental cells need to pass the strong traits to their offspring. And in a dynamic environment, the cells need to adapt and naturally select the traits to be passed on to the next generation. So, in other words, if you are in a new environment, you need to adjust, you need to adapt. Once you have adapted, you will definitely try to to pass on these strong traits because you definitely want your offspring to survive more. And the two ways that you can actually pass it through is by random fertilization and also crossing over. This is the process of meiosis. Okay, we won't be talking about meiosis in this particular semester, but really we are going to talk about it more when it comes to the stage 2 level. Okay. Now, we definitely need energy because without energy, you won't be able to move. You wouldn't be able to respond to the stimuli in the environment. And the two sources of energy for a cell would be ATP, adenosine triphosphate, and also glucose. All right, bear in mind that ATP is an energy carrier in a cell. All right, it is only an energy carrier, it is not an actual organic molecule. Whereas glucose, I've mentioned, which you consume in the form of carbohydrates, will be broken down into small monomers called glucose. And this is the organic molecule found in food or even synthesized in plants. All right, what is the process that plants use to synthesize? It is definitely photosynthesis, which we will talk in part 2. And that is the section that will follow after this. And fortunately, that part 2, all right, I managed to record it so there is no necessity for me to repeat it. All right, and nutrition. All right, this here displays the organic building blocks: hydrogen, carbon, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, and also phosphorus. Right, these 6 elements are crucial when you want to build organic molecules. Okay, so as you can see, the arrows are actually showing what sort of macromolecules that will have the related elements in the food supply that has been provided so that you can take in the nutrients and allows them to build more macromolecules. So for example here, nucleic acids definitely phosphate. the phosphate or the phosphorus element here, all right? You will see the phosphorus element being in the form of a phosphate group, and you can see it in the RNA and DNA, and that is clear cut, okay? All right, so the next topic would be on respiration and also photosynthesis, but I will not go through respiration because that has been touched upon in the first topic, okay? Thank you very much. Let me see if I can